Hi guys, this is Vidas.
And Usha.
Let's start episode 83 of Ask Vidas and Osha podcast. Today's question was sent by Radavia, and she writes that she is a beginner already in advanced age, 55 years old, in piano, and she loves organ. Radavia writes further, I have a virtual organ in my house, Grand Orgue software. My aim is to learn simultaneously the technique of the two instruments. I depend on reading still easy scores, and I would like to memorize them, but I have some difficulty with this. Do you have memorization tips to achieve this goal? P.S. Very cool your site, but many of the techniques presented are still difficult to understand for my level of learning. I hope someday to get there with your help, if possible. Thank you very much from Brazil, Radavia. Wonderful. People are learning organ playing from different corners of the world, right,
That's
Osha?
true.
Even though she's a beginner and some of our techniques and trainings are more advanced, I think she can really find out more for her level, right? But first, let's talk about what things would help her when she would like to train herself how to memorize organ music.
Well, what you have to do actually, you have to memorize short
Passages,
passages, yes.
fragments of pieces.
Like maybe just one measure at the beginning, and then add the second measure to that first measure, and so on and so forth. That's a long process.
Remember, Osha, when we were just starting playing the organ, nobody really taught us these things, and we didn't have to memorize organ music.
Yes.
It wasn't
Lithuania,
required.
Yes.
But piano
Yes.
was required. How did you feel about memorization and piano?
Actually, difficult.
Difficult, me too.
I was always, scared that during actual performance I will have a memory slip.
I struggled with memorization a lot during these days because my teacher would normally say, okay, next week learn and memorize, let's say, hands separately, right? Or in 2 weeks, entire piece, both hands together. That's it. She didn't somehow taught me the technique, precise technique, how to do this. There are various ways to do this, right?
That's true.
Remember when we got to the States and George Ritchie told you about Walch's technique?
Yes, I remember.
Could you share that with people?
Well, because Walcha was famous German organist and composer, and he was unfortunately blind, so he had to actually to play from memory all the time. And while learning new piece, he would be learning it voice by voice. Somebody of his students or colleagues would play for him one line of his piece. He would memorize it, and then
A couple of measures probably
yes,
first.
Yes, and then he would add the second voice, and so voice by voice he would memorize entire piece and learn the entire piece, so he would know it so well. And George Ritchie often used this method while learning music himself. And I think this is a fascinating way. Maybe, of course, it's time consuming. And now in our modern times, we might not get so much free time to do this kind of thing, but that's a good way to learn piece really well.
The advantage of this technique is that after decades of not touching this piece, when you come back and play from memory, you will discover that you almost can do this perfectly, except a few strange spots which you have to just double check. Like in one measure, is it a quarter note or a 8 note and 8 note rest? in one voice. You don't remember those exact details maybe. After years of not touching the instrument with this piece.
Yes, because there are a few types of memory actually in each person. Where it's like this, neurological muscle memory that works. Let's say you keep repeating the same piece like 100 times, and then your muscles, your fingers will just remember. You can play it from the memory even not thinking about it. But that's probably not the best way to learn it. And you can really use your brain to do it. Understand how the piece is put together, how the structure works, which key are you playing in, what sequence are you playing in.
You mentioned key sequence, so people should also know theory, probably.
I think everything should come, in the same sort of package.
That's why we teach total organist.
Yes. And I think, with like small kids, when we start learning, it's harder to do that because, we don't have the brain of an adult. And it's harder for them to understand like theoretical stuff. But if you are an adult, then things are easier.
Of course, maybe your hands will not move as fast.
Yes, that's true. That's the two sides of the same coin. The young people have one advantage, and adults have another advantage. But I think we have to use that advantage that we have at that age, which we are.
And kids don't usually have the inner motivation, perhaps.
Sure.
They need a push from external sources, teachers, parents, competitions, right? They want to win trophies and win prizes, be first prize winners and basically successful, artists. But I'm not saying that adults don't want this, but they have also this inner motivation to perfect their art and skill, and sometimes it's the only thing you need to keep going.
Yes, and learning music from memory, you will just have to be patient and to memorize it measure by measure. And then to learn some spots which would be easier for you to start over if something will happen during performance, and you will have some breakdown so that you could pick up another spot and play fluently further.
Well, exactly. There is another technique that sometimes I like to use, which Marcel Dupré recommended in his preface from 79 Chorales. He writes that it's best to memorize all parts together at the same time right away, but memorize just one measure at a time in groups of 4 measure episodes. So you take measure 1, 2, 3, 4 separately and memorize them. Then you do two measures at a time, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. Then you memorize 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 together. That's your first fragment. Until this is done, you can take a break or come back next day, maybe repeat the same thing a little bit, and then learn a next fragment of 4 measures similarly.
That seems very logical, because the 4 measure, music excerpt, that's a sentence actually. And each sentence consists of 4 measures, and these 4 measures consist of 2 phrases. Each phrase has 2 measures. And then each phrase consists of 2 motives.
Mm-hmm.
And motive usually is a measure long. So that's very logical,
Exactly. Can we recommend people another training that we have created. Remember, memorize easier.
Yes, I think this might help. This course might help.
We describe various ways of memorizing organ music, and effortlessly, and we discuss that in greater details in videos that which you can really then apply in your practice if you're struggling with memorization. So guys, we hope this was useful to you. Please send us more of your questions. This was Vidas.
And Ausra.
And remember, when you practice,
Miracles happen.